Happy Sunday. Happy New Year. I can't believe it. We're in 2022 already. I made it. We made it. Thank God we're here. Welcome, welcome to Let's Talk About You. It's always an honor and a privilege to have each and every one of you join in. So tell a friend that Let's Talk About You is on. What better way to start the year but to talk about things that impact us? And we're going to do that this evening. We're definitely going to do that. But before we begin, I have to say happy 24th birthday to my youngest and my oldest, my baby girl, Kiana Francis Burkett. I love you. I am so grateful. You humble me. You encourage me. You just make me so happy and creative, and I am so in love with you. And I thank God that He chose you for me. Happy birthday, baby girl. I love you. Let's get into it. Boundaries. What about it? Is it important? Should we set some? Should we not? Here today to join me is such a wonderful, impactful person, Dr. Oneeka Williams. Dr. Williams is a urologist. She's an author. She's a mentor. She's a motivational speaker. And she's here to join us here today. Welcome, Dr. Williams, and thank you for saying yes to Let's Talk About You. Tell our listening audience a little bit more about you.
Thank you so much, Carmel. It's great to be here. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy Sunday.
Yes.
Happy birthday to your amazing daughter.
Thank you.
I can't even imagine how blessed you must feel to have a 24-year-old. Wow.
I am. I truly am.
That's phenomenal. So, like as you said, I'm an author, urologist, etc. I call myself a positivity catalyst. And that's because I am a true believer and have birthed and continue to really promote this philosophy of sparking optimism and cultivating abundance. And that when I think about what is my mission and purpose in life, that really encapsulates everything that I do and all that I do. And the reason it is my why. I'm originally from the Caribbean, born in Guyana. Shout out to all the Guyanese out there. And moved to Barbados when I was 10 and then went from Barbados to Baltimore to Johns Hopkins for undergraduate, where I did a degree in biophysics, came up to Harvard for medical school, did a master's in public health as well, and then went on to do my urology and surgical residency and have stayed in Boston. And I like to say, most of all, I'm a child of God. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I am just a regular, roundaway, run of the mill, down to earth person who is really just excited about living life, loving God, and doing the best that I can do to make a difference.
And that is so wonderful. And I love the way you have it. Loving God, living life, and doing everything that you need to do. And I love the fact that you are positivity coach. I'm going to call you a positivity coach because when we met, never in person, but that's to come. That is definitely to come. And you spoke a couple years ago with my girls at my girls group. I mean, they were so overwhelmed and just excited about what you had to offer, and they got excited and they were so positive, and and even the mentors themselves, they was like, yes, I feel like a renewed version. I want to move forward, and you just put us all in this realm of positivity that we can do everything. And you hear it, you say it, but sometimes it's the way it's delivered, and you are excellent in delivering and making people feel good about feeling good. So you're definitely a positivity coach. And I thought that because of what you do and who you are, it'll be great for us to have the conversation about boundaries and setting boundaries, because I know that even though you're on this journey, because the journey doesn't end until we end, it had to start with boundaries for you, as well as it does for everyone. And I know that, boundaries is a way of life, or how we should impart something to make it a way of life. We have issues with boundaries when it comes to relationships, our jobs, our children, um, talking about ourselves, how much we let people in, not let them in, how much time we spend. There are just so many different areas of setting a boundary, what is healthy boundary, what is not healthy. And I just want us to just pick different pieces, and I like to use the word snippets, just little snippets of boundaries, intellectual boundaries, time boundaries, relationship boundaries, and the importance of setting boundaries to make us better persons, to make us healthier emotionally and mentally, and just for us to go about our day to day, because some of us are stuck. So impart some of your positivity into setting boundaries.
Yes, well, 2022 is the year of positivity. I have coined it. I've coined it that.
You have.
And let me break that down in a couple ways. I think about my own personal journey, and I think about things that people can really relate to. So let me start first with an analogy that I think everyone will be able to relate to. Because as I write, I started this journey of really creating this impact outside of the examining room as an author, creating Girl Super Surgeon, Dr. Dee Dynamo, Brown Girl, Superhero, Powers of Positivity, but with a view to really modeling the power of no limits, that one can achieve whatever one wants to do, that girls are powerful, that children of color are powerful, and that I wanted to create that representation for them that encouraged them to believe that they could do science, technology, engineering, and math, and that it was not something that was just available to old white men with spectacles. So I started that journey there, and I started that using storytelling as a way to integrate all of those concepts. And so I say that to say that I always kind of think in ways that are stories or creating some analogy to simplify the concept. So
And wait, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I probably should have backtracked some. So tell us about, I know, how many books did you write?
I have a book series called the Dr. Didi Dynamo book series, and I have about 13 books in that series in various iterations. And then I just published this summer my first adult book called Not Today Negativity: 5 Habits of Positivity to Cope, Hope, and Be Well in Tough Times. And it's
Congratulations. So
this
your first set, it was catered to the youth, because
the first,
your first set of
and
books are for the kids, and then the one book that you just published
is for the
is for
right,
the
but it's
adults.
still there's still that intersection. It is still this global concept of positivity, of having a process. Most people think about positivity as this rose-colored glasses where you deny everything can go wrong and you just kind of always only think about things in this unrealistic and idealistic, everything is perfect. And that's not what it is. What I talk about, or what I have established as these habits, is a process by which you are able to unpack your circumstances, unpack whatever the challenges are, and extract from them opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow, opportunities to hold on to the things that serve you, let go of the things that don't, opportunities to find your purpose and assignment in whatever it is that you're doing, and opportunities to still be thankful, to find the things to be thankful for. And when you have that process, even in the tough times, even as you still have to experience and acknowledge the times when you feel bad, when you come out of it, a process of positivity allows you to still take away the things that add to you from that experience and let go. Process, important to process, but the process and then let go of the things that don't serve you. And it's kind of like the gastrointestinal tract. We're eating all manner of stuff. We have a system in our body that extracts the things that serve us, that hold on to the things that are nutrients and that cause us to grow, to have energy, to do the things that we need to. And then it gets rid of the waste. It gets rid of the things that don't serve us. And that comes out in our stool. So one knows that if you are not letting go of that waste product, those toxins, eventually you will become very ill. So that's how I think about a process of positivity. And the reason that it is very important, even as we talk about boundaries, is because we have to train up our children to shift. This is a mindset shift. This is a shift in the way that we think. And in order for our children to be successful, we have to not only model for them, we have to teach them. And for ourselves to be healthy parents, to show up in the world as our best selves, we must also have a practice that allows us this process, because ultimately this is about how do we maintain our emotional, mental, and physical health. And so there is that intersection. I realized that as I spoke across the country to children, that the parents and the teachers and the adults in the room would say, what about these habits of positivity? Do you have a book? We need those in our lives. So absolutely. This is now adults and children, the intersection. You can't get away from the intergenerational nature of how we live our lives and the importance that it has for all of our success.
And you're right, because we do have to start with our children. And that's how we build the whole adult, is working on our kids first. So you definitely started right by writing the books for our kids. And it's like change your mind and you change your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to go back then to why I did that whole preamble. So if you think about football, basketball, baseball, these are all of the, sports hold such a tender place in the heart of our societies. It's the thing that brings us together in many different ways. And so on a Sunday, or, we know in the Caribbean, cricket and soccer or football are the big things. In America, the US, things like baseball and football, hockey, these are big, big generational, pursuits and interests. And when we think about games, they all have rules of engagement. They have clear order to how the game is played, clear rules for the players, clear times when you know that what is out of bounds, what is not out of bounds. So in establishing clear boundaries within these games, within sports, it allows everyone to engage in the game in a way that feels controlled, that feels that everyone understands what their role is. Everyone understands when someone is not in the place in which they should be. There is an order to it. And what it creates is a feeling of kind of security, peace. You know what to expect. You know when somebody is offside. You know when somebody is, out of bounds. You know the rules of engagement. And when you know the rules of engagement, it really anchors the participants in just this kind of sense of well-being, that when you show up, you know what you're getting.
Exactly.
And part of the reason that has been important in sports is because people value sports. They value, when you think about probably who are the highest paid, professionals in this country and in
The
the world,
athletes, yep, they do that.
figures, entertainers. So there is a value, and those players know their worth. They know their worth. The different organizations that own these teams also understand the worth of the players. The participants and the spectators understand the worth. They understand their worth. And so it comes from this place of protecting the game, protecting the players. A lot of times those boundaries are set in order to protect the players, in order to protect the game, in order to protect the industry. So it's this combination of worth and protection and respect. And so if I then transfer that onto our lives, it then underscores the importance. Boundaries are critical to the successful execution of anything that requires engagement and interaction, anything that has a relationship, that has multiple different layers, multiple different ways that people interact in order to have order and in order to create a sense of well being, in order so that people understand what it is that they're getting, what they're giving, and what they're receiving. The rules of engagement, boundaries are critical.
Oh, definitely. And that is so poetically stated. I love it. And, but even though you gave an excellent analogy and summary of what boundary is, sometimes it's difficult for persons to not only adhere boundary, but just to even say, okay, put up the boundary and say, I need to create some. It's
Yes,
difficult because, just like you said, there are rules for the players, and that's what makes the game more engaging, and it sets value not only for the players but for the game itself. But what about the spectators, us looking at the game? We too need to have boundaries as we sit, stand, engage in watching the game. So,
absolutely. You're absolutely right. And so to get to the second part of when I talk about boundaries, my journey, life for me is the best teacher. You know, when you said, you know, life is wasted on the youth, youth is wasted on, I mean, it really is as you gain more experience, you become wiser, you understand the importance of all of these elements. And so for me,
so we
the
should
journey,
anyway.
yeah, we should, we should. And so the journey for me of really understanding the importance of boundaries and being able to establish boundaries for myself came out of this place of a need for self-care. And so
Yes.
one of the things that I talk about in my new book is how we are conditioned, especially as women. We are conditioned to take care of everyone around us. We're socialized to be super women,
Yes.
to, you know, be educated, have some type of, you know, gainful purpose and pursuits, to take care, if you have a family, to take care of your family, whether it's the parents, children, you know, extended family, to look good, to never, you know, always show up, to make sure that you have, you know, the food on the table,
Yes.
to be the best friend, to be available for this person. Like we literally carry this weight of expectations of being everything to all people. And when you go into a caring, many of us go into roles that include or involve caring for others, there again, it's this output and output and output. And because we have been so conditioned to believe that we have to show up as this super person, I had to redefine super for myself and for sharing with others, because if you always show up with the expectation that you have to be super, ultimately you live from a place of feeling like you're never enough, because you're constantly, it's impossible to meet that bar. And so in redefining super, the S for me was about self-care. It's like you can't care for anybody else until you care for yourself. You have nothing to give if you're giving from an empty tank.
That's very
And
true.
so I had to, in my role and in my work and training as a surgeon, and then as you know, the family member and the friend who has the medical knowledge, and then as someone who wants to give back to community and who wants to be there for everybody and their mother, it got to the point where I recognized that I was becoming very depleted. Not only that, in my professional pursuit as a urologic surgeon, I am one of the very few women in urology. And as you can imagine, Black women, even less so. And so, in a very male dominated environment with lots of egos, I had to deal with a lot of misogyny and sexism and disrespect. And I had to learn how to create and set boundaries in order to preserve my own self worth. And so, this combination of self care, caring for yourself to be able to really protect what is worthy. So, we have to recognize our own worth. We have to do the examination. And so, when you ask about how do you set boundaries, you first start with the work within, with the self examination for you to establish that you are worthy, that you are worthy of being protected in the same way in which we set boundaries for our children, because we recognize that for babies as they grow, that it is very important for their development. If we don't set boundaries for our children, they get hurt. If we don't tell them, you don't go near the stove, you stay away from this, we set boundaries that are age appropriate. And what we recognize is that boundaries are important for our growth and development.
And you're right. But unfortunately, and I don't want to be the advocate, because the devil's advocate, to be the opposite of what you say. We tend to do as I say, not as I do. And as we're doing that, we're chipping away at who we are. We're chipping away. And though, you answered several of the questions I was going to ask you. I know that you're a staple in your community. I know that you do so much in the field that you're in a male-dominated field. You're author, you're writing, you're traveling, you're doing. How do you set boundaries? And you're explaining yourself so well, saying you start with me, with self. But sometimes it is just difficult to just realize the self, because we're conditioned. And as I said, that we have to change our mindset. And most of our mindset is you have to do. You shouldn't be idle. If you're just at peace, you're wasting time, and that's not a good boundary, or that's not a good thing. You always should be doing and this and that. And busy work is better work than idle work, instead of learning to just be still and take care of self, like you say.
Yeah. I mean, you're so right. And part of what happens, certainly in this society, many, of us have bought into this notion that if you're not doing something, then you're not living up to your potential, you're wasting time. And what I think we have to, this is a matter of re-education, really redefining. When you understand that stress is the number one killer in this country, that so many of the diseases, the diseases that we deal with are based on stress. And why do we live these stressful lives? Because we have bought into this notion that life is a grind, that it is constantly chasing after something, in pursuit of something, comparing yourself to somebody else, that
Yes.
all of these expectations, all of these metrics that you measure yourself against. And so you're constantly in pursuit. And really and truly, I think we're seeing this even in the pandemic, where people, they're calling these mass resignations, where it has taken this type of catastrophic world event to have people step back and recognize what is really important.
Yes, a lot of reevaluation has been done during this pandemic.
What is really valuable? What is meaningful? And and one of the things that when you really kind of think about, even as we show up for our jobs, we show up for our professions, we have to have a work ethic. There's nothing that says, it's nobody's saying that you don't have to have a work ethic, that you don't have to have a discipline and a diligence, that you don't show up doing the best that you can, and certainly delivering on whatever it is that you have committed to do. No one is saying that. But what we're saying is that too often we ourselves get caught up and we measure our value based on these external circumstances. So the more that you show up and the more that you think nobody can do it without you, the more that you fill up. And so part of the not setting boundaries is also feeding our own need for affirmation. And so there has to become this discernment and this awareness of where this comes from. And so often, and it's so sad when you see situations where, someone, they have worked themselves to the bone. They've been in this position for X number of years. Everybody could depend on them. They will show up, at the drop of a hat. If, you call them and they were in the middle of dinner, they would leave their families and they would do whatever they needed to do. So to the extent where sometimes the families didn't even have that quality time with them. And if that person drops dead, like, that's it. Life is over. The people with whom they work, and, not disparaging anybody, this is just a reality. They may have a little memorial service. The office gets cleaned out. Somebody gets moved in to the new space.
And it keeps going.
And but it's almost as if the person didn't exist. I mean, like,
going.
the life goes on. The people who absolutely feel your absence and who feel that loss are the same family members that you couldn't spend as much time as you might have liked with because you were so fixated on being everything for everybody else. And so I think it is very, very important for us to really, when we find ourselves in a situation where we think that if we don't do it, no one else will, we have to then bring it back to self and really question what is happening in our head, in our own, inner self, that makes it such that we feel like we have to deplete ourselves in order to feel worthy. So I think it's a lot of our internal. We can set boundaries, but we first have to believe that it is important for us to do it.
I know I was guilty of that, working myself, going crazy, getting things done, doing this, doing that. And I still do a lot. But I have learned over the years, and a lot during this time of pause. I mean, I've been fortunate to still work, but I have learned to spend time in self-care, especially emotional health. Because when you have to spend time, then you really realize the person that you're spending the time with, yourself.
Yes, yourself. And not only that, and I think that when we think about it from a mental, emotional, and physical health perspective, we really have, from a physical perspective, we have one body. And you can really think about, both for our emotional, mental, and physical health, if you just keep grinding, and you never take these times of kind of resetting, bringing back to zero. So you're constantly going, you never give your body, your mind, or your emotions a place and a time to reset, to pause. So you could just think is that you're just kind of adding and adding and adding and adding. And eventually you will get to a place of burnout because you can't continue to grind indefinitely. If you come back to a place of pause, you come back, you reset, it means that every time you're coming from zero, you're working your way up, then you get to that threshold. Okay, you come back down to zero, you work your way up, you come back down to zero. So when you really think about wear and tear, you are giving yourself places and time to recover, which really extends your life. And it's why we need to sleep. Our bodies, our bodies, everything in nature, if you look at the animals that hibernate, you look at the trees that shed their leaves in the season and then, go into a thing of dormancy, then they spring back again in the spring. There are cycles, and the cycles are because our bodies are meant to have periods of recovery. Otherwise, we wear them out prematurely.
I agree. And I really think some of our issue deals with our mindset. Where do you think that we may have gotten that mindset that we have to conquer the world all right now, this second? Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. That overdrive.
I think it just comes, it comes back from, I think historically, and when I really think about, if you compare kind of our culture to other cultures, if you look at the European culture, so I don't think that this is a worldwide phenomenon. You look at European cultures, they have siestas, they take a break in the middle of the day. They get a year maternity leave. They get, vacations. Their vacations are 3 months. They get. So in various parts of the world, our philosophies are very different. I think that when we really, so I think there are a couple of perspectives. I think the whole capitalistic way of thinking, the whole capitalistic philosophy, tends to um, subscribe and contribute to this kind of go, 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 go. I think we have become a very materialistic culture. I think that when you look at the images of what people aspire to, who are the role models that are promoted? It is the bling bling. It is, I'm not going to call names, but but the people that our kids and that we quote unquote aspire to, the
Yes.
people who are put on pedestals, the images that are by and large that really overwhelm our airways, our digital devices, our screens, are these images of quote unquote what success is. And so I think unfortunately we have really corrupted and distorted what success is. And so we have gotten on this treadmill of pursuit of these material, financial, types of goals. And so we have lost sight of what really and truly are the things in our lives that bring us real joy, that brings a sense of fulfillment. I mean, we see so many examples of people who have all the money in the world,
And still
all the
unhappy.
status, all the notoriety, all the celebrity status, all the likes, and so on and so forth on the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And, they're having issues, whether it's with drug addiction and suicide. We've seen so many just sad stories. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Prince, the list goes on and on and on about the people that you think have achieved this, what is
The notoriety of greatness,
the
of wealth, of
utopian,
success, and happiness.
like you've gotten to that,
Yes.
you've made it. And it's just not it. So we bought into that. And then, of course, you go back to places where, because that has become what is, the goals, you look at even in developing countries, we know that hard work and education for us within the Caribbean is the underpinning of kind of success. But that hard work becomes, I think, toxic. It becomes distorted. We lose sight of creating a balance between
And I think
your
that's the key,
rest.
creating that balance. Because
Yes,
there's nothing wrong with working hard, but you have
yes,
to rest.
you have to
Because
create a
you
balance.
have to rest so you can continue to work. And you're right, we don't have a chance to do it again. This is it. We have to take care of our bodies now
That's right.
because we don't get a redo.
Yes,
And the other point that I really appreciate you talking about is peace. Too many times we take the word peace and happiness as just cliche words. If we're happy all the time, oh, nobody can be that happy all the time. Something is wrong with you. With all that's going on and you happy, it doesn't mean that you're not acknowledging what's going on, but it just means that it's not disturbing the person that you need to be so you can go forward. And so you're right.
yeah.
And
And ultimately, we make a choice.
yeah,
Our mind is our most powerful asset, and we make a choice. And so when we think about boundaries, we make the choice that I choose self care. I understand what my needs are, and I choose to believe that I am worthy enough to honor those needs, and that if those around me also value me and see my worth, then they will respect the boundaries. And it is a reciprocal relationship. But for us to be healthy, for us to be protected, for us to understand our worth, for us to grow, for us to develop, I mean, boundaries are not static. They will change over time,
Yes, I agree.
but they change in ways that are related to when you are ready for that growth.
And what about, like you said, when we value ourselves, we have the boundaries, and when persons value us, they will respect our boundaries. When is it that when happens when they don't respect us, and they try to um, not uphold our boundaries and make it seem like our boundaries are insignificant because they don't value us? What about in those situations?
I think it's just consistency. Do you value yourself? If you value yourself, then even if there are those who do not respect your boundaries, you have to believe in yourself sufficiently to continue to state and maintain your boundaries. And if there are those who continue to violate your boundaries, which means they're violating you, you then have to accept that those are not the people who you are meant to be in relationship with. And sometimes it's tough. It's tough because it'll be family members. It may be a job that you really, really need. It may be a significant other. And so if you are really about understanding your worth, you then have to continue to communicate that it is not acceptable for those people to continue to violate your boundaries. And if you understand your worth, you will get to the point where you say, this is, you are not adding to me. When I think about
Yes,
positivity, I'm like, what are the things that add to
back
you?
to me. Yes,
Those are the things that you need in your universe. The things that are taking away and depleting and tearing you down, then those are things that you have to let go, because you also have to understand that so often we don't recognize that when people violate your boundaries, many times it is also about them.
yes,
It is about their own insecurities, about their own issues. And so you have to be very clear about what is yours and what is theirs. And if they have their issues, then those issues should not carry over into you. You got to be like, not today, negativity.
right. It begins
Today.
and ends with self. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. This has been a real engaging, free flowing conversation about setting boundaries and including what your books are about the importance and the power of positivity. And the one thing that, sometimes because of society and how we were brought up when you're paying too much attention to yourself, you're self absorbed, or you're too arrogant, or it doesn't take all of that. Those two we need to set boundaries about as well, because that reflects about the importance about taking care of self.
Yeah. And I think, and you're so right. And so we have been brought up to believe that it is a bad word, that you're vain, or that, you said selfish. And I think that it really comes back to, where are you anchored? If you are anchored, and from my perspective, anchored in my faith, anchored in God, knowing what God calls us to do, who He calls us to be, knowing that He has created us, He has made us fearfully and wonderfully, and that He has created us to be respected, to be respectful. He has created us. I mean, we are created in His image. And so if we think about ourselves as sons and daughters of the King, and we think about our worth from that perspective, not from a perspective of, oh, it's all about me, but from a perspective that I have been put here to do the work of the King. I have been assigned, and the assignment necessitates that I must show up as my best,
Yes.
kind of mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy in order to do the work in the kingdom.
Yes.
I can't do the kingdom work if I'm tore down from the floor down. I mean, I can't. And
Exactly.
so I have to think about it from this perspective of what has God put me here to do? How does He think about me? And how, if He thinks about me as being, He loves me unconditionally, I am the most amazing creation of His. If He thinks about me in that way, then I don't honor Him if I don't think about myself in that.
I
I literally take a gift that He has given me and I neglect it, I completely dishonor it. That's not why He has put us here. So it's if you are serving, you're really about the business of doing God's work, then He says we must care for our temple
yes.
because it is in our temple that He dwells. And so if we have respect for this temple because it is His dwelling place, then we have to care for it as such.
Well, you're absolutely right. And we as Christians, me included, need to do more work on taking care of the temple. But I'm working on it. And another important part of boundaries to me is just setting time, because just like you said, boundaries change, just like our feelings change, the situations change, the environment that we're in change. So we change accordingly, and change is the only constant, which is wonderful. And with change comes growth.
Absolutely.
And we
Absolutely.
need to be okay with that. We need to be okay that when we
And
set something in place, it doesn't have to always be set in stone, because the situation may change.
absolutely, and it's not fixed. And quite frankly, we see in our own embryologic development that there are times in our development that it is one tissue pushing against another that induces growth, the growth of a new organ. So boundaries there are times when pushing against a boundary is what induces the development of something new, the development of something, more fulfilling or rewarding. It stretches you. So it is not to say that you're not going to have, this change in your boundaries. As I said, I still liken it to the development of our children. You grow, you crawl, and when you're crawling, we have up all these gates all over the place. You can't, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, you climb over the gate. You haven't had that experience where you come in the room and the child has climbed out of the crib and you're like, oh my God. But then you actually realize, okay, well, now they're ready for the next level. And so now, you take down the gates and all the little areas they can navigate their way down the stairs, and they have learned how to be safe because the purpose of boundaries are about protection
Yes.
as well. So once you have learned how it is that you can kind of navigate within the area with that particular boundary in place, and now you have developed the strength, you have developed the resilience, you have now developed the reps where you have become more efficient, you have become much more, adept at the work that you're doing, you've figured out the workarounds. You can now move that boundary because you have developed and you have grown. So you don't need to be boxed in to this one static place. We grow and we develop. And all the boundaries allow for is the protection as we are developing the skills to then be able to go expand the boundaries, to go outside of that initial boundary, Now we spread our wings. We use the maturity and the learning that have developed in that initial boundaries, and then you expand it. So it is a dynamic process. So I want people to really understand that boundaries can serve you. Your boundaries serve you. It doesn't hold you hostage, but it serves you because it allows you to be protected, and then you grow, and then you're able to
Yes.
expand those boundaries.
And you're right. And I like what you said about we don't have to be boxed in, because too many times, because we set boundaries as the form of protection, because that's what boundaries are, people tend to put us in boxes because they think that we should do this, we should do that, we should do that, we should do this, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. And they think that they may be helping, or they just think that they're limiting us. But as you said, it begins and ends with self. We can't allow that person's thought of us, or lack of value for us, or lack of respect for us, dictate where we should go, because we may have just outgrown them, like that
Yeah,
child has outgrown being in that playpen.
exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're getting ready to wrap up here. I know that I am truly enjoying the conversation and this dialogue here, Dr. Williams. So I know that you have your two books, well, your two sets of books, your first series, and then your adult version of your books. Tell our listening audience how they can get a hold of your books.
Well, first of all, let me just say, Carmel, that I am one of my superpowers is creativity. And
Yes.
as I said at the beginning, this mission of sparking optimism and cultivating abundance and recognizing that we have to create these spaces and these pauses, I call them positivity pauses, for us to what I call redefine, recharge, reset before we resume. So the work that I do both within the books, which is the Dr. Didi Dynamo book series, I have a website, www.drdididynamo.com. I have my own personal site, droneekawilliams.com, and I have a myislandofpositivity.com. So all of this work about sparking optimism and cultivating abundance, which if you actually pay attention to the letters, it spells out SOCA. So my husband and I are the SOCA MDs because we love self-expression. We love
I
you.
love that, the
Embrace
Soka
our
MDs.
culture. We embrace our culture. This is all about living authentically, right? Like being yourself, like showing up in the world to do what you are called to do, but then be living from a place of authenticity where you don't apologize for who you are, and that you are prepared to engage and to bring people into your world. And so my overarching company here and work and mission in what I call the island of positivity, which is the home of Dr. Didi Dynamo, but is bringing people into this place where they have this sense of well-being, where they're able to take these pauses, where they're able to recognize the importance of just making space for the things that add to you.
Yes.
So along with the books are coming the line, the positivity line, the island of positivity line, self-care line with the candles and body scrubs and body souffles and the diffuser oils, to just allow you to get discipline around showering the love upon yourself. Self love, so incredibly important. And so take the time to pause, to care for you. So the Island of Positivity work can be found on the myislandofpositivity.com, and you'll see a lot more. We've just launched the line. We're doing a Black Love line for Black History Month and Valentine's
Oh,
Day.
sounds
And
good.
so you'll begin to see a lot of information coming up about that. But just loving on yourself. Give yourself a squeeze.
And I love the fact that you incorporate, who you are, and being a Caribbean woman. loving soca, loving the music, loving the richness of your island of positivity, because it could have just been positivity, but you're keeping it true to who you are, a true island girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And tell
Absolutely.
us a little bit more about your line, because is it, are, you're doing your line, and you're saying that Black History Month and for Valentine's Day. Is that when the launch is going to be, or
So
launch?
so this line is handmade, all natural, vegan, gluten-free. It's really meant to create a space for you to just have that time of, just taking a breath to disconnect from the woes and the worries of the world
And do
and
your
to
reset?
create a space to just reset. And so it is the fragrances feel very tropical. They really transport you into this place where if you close your eyes, you can feel the ocean breeze, you can smell the ocean, and they have names like Victory, and with them with like I try to. This is all about the messaging and not only creating the space, but those positive affirmations. And so the victory line is, the tagline is every breath is a winning declaration. So that if you were already kind of brought up into as I breathe in, that my
You're
breathing
making me
every
relax right now just listening to you talk about it. I'm like, okay, girl,
it's a
send it
winning
on, send it on.
like favor is the other. So far it's victory, favor, ascend into the divine expectation of good. Then there's unlimited. Then the line for Valentine's and Black love is called Ife, which is the Yoruba word for love. And the tagline is there is that you could revel in the timeless power of love. It really speaks to how love has been that anchoring thing that has
Yeah.
brought us from, centuries of, just the hardship, the racism, all of those things. Are like, what is it that kept us together as a people?
Yes.
It is love.
Yes, it is
And
love.
so it is, so
And with
those are
love, we set boundaries.
exactly. Exactly. So it is a line, it's a feel good line, it's a line for us, it's a line that is communicating, these positive messages and these positive images that bring you into that reminder to press the pause button and just allow you to feel, good, to take that time to recharge and to reset. So my goal is that this will become, kind of a worldwide brand that it will literally become synonymous with these positivity pauses, with these
Once you
self.
keep talking about it the way that you do, it definitely will be a worldwide brand. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, give us a summary of your takeaway in about boundaries, setting boundaries, the importance. I mean, I've been taking my notes here, but give our listening audience your summary of the importance of boundaries, and then we'll once again, before we sign off, get your website so we can order all that luscious victory, um, and tropical breeze and the beach scents and your books. So you order the books and you're in the tub, have the candles lit,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and you said
Yes.
they're oils as well.
Oh, well, the bath salts. Oh, yeah. Did I mention? I don't think I
No,
mentioned
you
bath
didn't
salts.
mention the bath salts.
Yes. No, but you said it. You were
Well,
like, yes.
I was just envisioning when you talked about candles laying in the tub, reading the book.
Absolutely, but yes, they're the bath salts. So you got it right. You got that image. You got your tub. You fill it with your warm water. You put in your bath salts. You light up your candle. You got your little diffuser going if you want. You have your body souffle and you scrub on the
Ooh,
side,
okay,
and
girl.
you relax with your not today negativity. Just be transported.
Come on, Doc.
Can't you just see like just be
Yes.
It's like your own personal retreat. And really, truly, what I want people to take away is that your island of positivity is mobile. It lives in you. Like you can take it with you
Yes.
wherever you go. You make that choice. So I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited that it is something that is going to be impactful, that there's a healing element, that the scents that we use are all designed to bring, that healing element. So it is really a place of healing. And I feel like it is so needed now.
Yes.
We've been
Yes.
down
Yes.
during these last couple of years. We already were coming out. We
We're
it's
coming
been
out.
long. It's been a long. It was. We went into the pandemic depleted, and so this we have gotten like a triple whammy. And so I feel like being an agent, being that positivity coach, positivity catalyst, being that agent who just says, here is something tangible. Sometimes you want to do something for self-care, but you don't quite know what to do.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna package it up for you, make it easy. Here are these little things that you can do to make that time to just create that space for healing and for well-being. And so if I were to wrap up, the boundaries, boundaries are really the rules of engagement. They are extremely important in everything that we do. And they span mental, emotional, physical, intellectual, professional, relationship, all of those, the same principles apply, which are the rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement are important because they underscore self worth,
Yes.
value. So they create protections. They're based on your value for yourself,
Yes.
other people's value for you. It also requires a connection to self, that self examination, so that you understand your own worth and that you don't sell yourself short because you feel that you have to show up based on other people's metrics and expectations, and you end up depleting yourself and not honoring that temple, which ultimately, when we think about the protection of boundaries, emotional, mental,
Yes.
physical,
Yes.
intellectual, and our spiritual health. Very, very, very important. And so that would be my summary of why boundaries are critical to our very existence.
And I am in 1,000% agreement. And you summed it up well. I was going to add in my 2 cents because I know it. My thing is, it starts and it ends with you. It's about protection, and you have to love yourself. It's about love, and you're absolutely right. It's intellectual, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's mental. It's about you. So let's bring these boundaries, the importance of boundaries for our self care, for us to move into 2022 whole. We have so much going for us. We have so much to look forward to in this year. It is unknown, and yes, we're still in the pandemic, we're still going through, but we still have to set those boundaries. We still have to think about self. We still have to be true to who we are. We still have to be very authentic. And as we do that, we have to order all those fun products from Dr. Williams, her line. And as you order that, you read her book, well, her books, her first set of series, because I feel the first set of series, even though she says it's for kids, it's for adults too.
Yes.
You learn so much. And sometimes reading a kid's book is lightens your heart, and it gives you that inner joy and peace that we all truly need to take us from where we are to where we need to be. Peace is important.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
shy away from it. Get it from wherever. Once you're not hurting anyone, get the peace from anywhere you need to get it, even if it's from reading a child's book. I enjoy doing that.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree with you.
So, Dr. Williams, thank you so very much for your time, your impartation, your knowledge, your talent, your skills. You are just a phenomenal person. And I wish you and your family the best, not just for 2020, but beyond. Congratulations on your new venture again. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being a positivity coach. At least I know you're one of my positivity coach, and I am grateful for you. And I'm so glad that we met. And I
Yes.
hope to finally meet you in person soon, 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 very soon. We have to meet in person
Absolutely. We're
because
putting it
this is
out.
the only way we've been meeting.
Yes, yes. We're putting it out in the universe. And it's so funny that you say positivity coach because I've kind of shied away from the coaching. I'm not really a
Well, what you
coach.
do, you have a
But
podcast, and I fill in a lunchtime. I take my break. Well, I don't really take a lunch break, but your lunchtime is my
yes,
break, so I can get
yes,
my recharge reset
that's
during
right.
the day, so I
Yes,
can continue.
yes,
So that's a
absolutely.
coach.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Once
Thank you.
you're
Thank
telling your persons to huddle and come around, let's listen
you.
and
That's
get what you
right.
need to get and move on. That's what the
That's
coach in the
right.
game does.
Exactly right. Exactly
So
right.
you're my positivity coach.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
received
you
that.
so much. Well, stay blessed on purpose. Happy 24th birthday, Kiana Francis Burkett. Thank you all so much for joining us here and Let's Talk About You. And I hope this show was as beneficial for you as it was for me today. Take care, everyone. Stay blessed.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
You're
Mom. This was
welcome.
awesome. Thank you for the work that you're doing in spreading all this amazing
I
knowledge.
appreciate that. Thank you. I really appreciate the time that I'm here at Let's Talk About You because I like to talk.
Yes.
Take care. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Good night. Night all.